Clavicular, he revealed that he is infertile. And I guess this was back in November, but it popped onto my X feed. I know a lot of people were talking about it over the New Year's time frame. It just was just going off everywhere and everybody was commenting on it. But I looked back when it happened, it was on Sneako's podcast and it was back in November 9th. That he revealed this, that he is infertile. And he just said it just without even a hesitation. And that shows the balls, I think, of this guy. He doesn't care. This is the new wave. People don't care. Just say what you think, say what you mean. And in this topic, it's not like he's infertile for life, but he's seen at this time with all the things he's taken, he is a genetically modified human being that has been grown in a lab, that he is doing things for looks maxing to make himself look peak male condition. He is ascending. That's what he wants to do. He's 19 years old. I pulled this from the one we're going to look at. Mary Catherine Ham retweeted it and she commented on it. I saw it because Tim Pool reposted it. And this is kind of the full video. It's about a minute long of him, this revelation. But keep in mind, this happened back in November.
People are asking, are you going to be infertile? Do you worry about having children?
So right now I am infertile, but I'm not able to have a kid right now. But if I wanted to, there's a protocol I can put in place to be immediately good again.
Wait, why are you infertile right now?
So it's just like a negative feedback loop when you're not needing to produce testosterone anymore because your body realizes, okay, we're getting it from an exogenous.
So you're not producing any testosterone naturally?
No.
None?
No.
I'm not taking TRT, bro.
Well, how do you think it works? You just don't, your body realizes we're at a certain level we don't need anymore, so it stops producing it.
So how do you fix that? How do you have kids?
You just take something that, signals your brain to restart the production. You stop taking the testosterone, your levels start to diminish, you agonize the receptors, and then your body just starts producing it again.
So have other people done that before?
Yeah, dude, the chance of, being completely infertile is 1 in 100,000.
You should freeze some sperm.
That you've got to do that before you make the commitment.
Right. But next time, unless you,
yeah, you could do that.
The next reset.
But dude, the odds of, going permanently infertile are so egregiously low that it's not really, not really necessary.
He explained why he's infertile. It's based on his testosterone levels. He can get something to bump it back up so it starts going again. But it's because he has been taking supplements pretty much since he was sounded like 14, 15, different things. And he does about every drug that's out there. But he's doing it in a way to build his physique. He's doing surgeries on his jaw. He's doing a lot of things just so he wants to look like the perfect man. And credit where credit is due. I've listened to, since I talked about him the first time, I didn't know anything about him really besides what Nick Fuentes had said, a few different clips that he'd brought him up and about this guy. But since I've learned more about him, I give him massive credit because of what he is doing. He's living out what he believes. He's to the fullest extent. I think he's young, so I think he's going in directions that I don't think are the best, because he's completely focused on the physical and the materialistic self. What is happening in his life now. He's not thinking about many other people besides just trying to get them to live the same way that he's living because he thinks that it's going to benefit them the most. I don't think that because it disregards the spiritual component because you can't, I don't think you can lose sight of that we are not just a physical, chemical mechanism, walking around. We have a spiritual component to us, all of us do. And I think but maybe that comes with maturity. I didn't think about any of this until I was really 20 or 21. So he's not even there. And I know a lot of people don't think about it till they're older in life. Maybe it's just going to come with age, but maybe he's doing something right because he is focusing, he's honing in on this because this is what his audience, the people that he is reaching, young men in general, of what he thinks is going to help them the most and become the best version of them. Now, this is the podcast that I listened to the whole thing with him when he went on Michael Knowles, and maybe that is why people are becoming more and more aware of him and why it's showing up on everyone's X feed now. Or maybe it's because I saw something and now I'm a little bit late to the party. But I don't know if you've heard about Clavicular, if you know too much about him, but he revealed a lot about his mindset and the way that he thinks on the Michael Knowles show. And it was very eye-opening because I actually could see a window to his soul, how he is like interpreting his lifestyle, how he's interpreting the things that are happening around him. Should we focus in on politics? Should we ignore it? Should we just do everything that is just about looks maxing? Should we that be our life? And we're gonna dive into this clip. It's pretty interesting.
I just don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to just advocate for your average person to only concern themselves with their own.
To me, that's the big cope. I agree with many of the observations you're making about the society, but the big cope, you heard this with like the libs when they were trying to push the trans stuff and they were upset that some of us were pushing against it. And they said, how does this affect you? You know, you're walking out. It's basically your society is Sodom and Gomorrah. And they say, well, how does it affect you if I decide I want to like castrate little kids in the school and redefine marriage and slaughter babies and sacrifice them to Moloch? And how does that affect you? You just mind your own business. And I think
obviously a good point. And he's going to take it from the perspective of, you know, if people want to just damage themselves, screw up their whole life by just castrating themselves or just taking things that are just going to remove their gender or change their gender or anything like that, you know, they're going to descend. I'm going to ascend. And that's the kind of the way he's taking it. Yeah, maybe you could go there, but like if people haven't had a fully formed mind and adults are telling them to do this and kind of pushing them in this direction, I think we do have a moral responsibility to step in and not allow that to happen. But yeah, I mean, if people are of a right mind, they're of a sound mind, and they're mature enough to make decisions that are going to drastically change their life forever. If it goes against the principles that, that if there are moral guidelining principles that God has given us, that he made it man and woman, and you're not born a man and then you become a woman. You're not born a woman, you become a man. He's made you the way that you are for a specific reason. So it's like if we want to just try to become God ourselves and just, I want to be what I want to be. I don't want to look up. I don't want to recognize the way that God has made me and live that out and be fully fruitful and flourishing for society and this world.
How about I don't mind my own business? How about my business is my community and I have a right to enforce standards and norms that are good and traditional and conducive to flourishing? And how about you mind your own business?
But the problem is, you see what you just did there is you spiked your cortisol thinking about transgenders.
Will that max anything on me?
No,
I think that is the point. We should bring the temperature down. And he's like, he reminds me of like a James Dean. If that guy back in the day that was really just very popular and just, I think he died young and just, he had that aura about him, you know, and Clavicular at this young age, he has that aura that he's cool. He's not going to be easily set off. He's going to say things very thoughtfully, and he's not going to allow, I guess this is a thing, your cortisol to spike. People have that, you know. I'd only heard that from my wife, you know, 'cause she brings up like, you know, if I startle her or something like that, you spike my cortisol. I guess that is a real thing. But I mean, to me, it was always just fantasy, but I guess it is. We have chemicals in us. We are a machine. Our body is a fully functioning machine that has the periodic table just running, coursing through our veins, you know? So I get it that things can spike, go up and down, and we should try to prevent that. And I could take a few pointers from him. He's beyond his age in a lot of ways, the ways that he's thinking through these. But in some of them, as everyone, I think he has some blind sides. He has some spots he's not focusing on them, because at this point in time, it's not the platform he's built, and it's not the audience that he has. It's not the target group of men that want to hear this. It's not the most fun thing, you know, when you hear about spiritualism and about morality and, you know, doing the right thing. But then again, I go back and forth because it seems like more and more the younger guys in our nation are becoming more socially conservative. They care about morality. They care about what's right, you know. But they've just been fed a lot of crap. They look at things and they don't trust anything because the authority that has just thrown things down their throat and it put them in this terrible situation. Because to be honest, just to sit back and just think about younger people and the younger men especially. They're grown up in this womanized culture that we've built, that women are the pinnacle of everything. They like our society has put women over men. And guys, When I think if we have a really smart attitude of how God has ordered things, he created men first and he created woman out of man. There is a hierarchy. It's not to say one is more valuable than the other, but when we turn things upside down and I just think of churches or anything in society, we make it all womanized. We make it all about, it's not grasping at what is at the heart of men. And we want to hunt. We want to gather. We want to fight. We want, there's a time for war. There's a time for peace. We want to have a say. We want to have the main say, the final say. And it's like, I think that we're being fed that, no, women can have the final say. You guys just do your own thing. And I think that's the culture that these younger guys are growing up in, and they're fed up with it. They're revolting against it. And I'm seeing, I know you can take it too far, but sometimes it needs to be said. It needs to be said that men need to be men and women need to be women, and there's things that guys can do that girls can't, vice versa,
That's a very catabolic hormone. So if you're advocating for people to, go around and, concern themselves with these issues, or go to, like school, like board conferences and be outspoken about this, that's just largely going to be unproductive. And, it might seem like a doomer mentality, or you're just going to let society go to, it's like on an individual level, it's not going to be productive.
But on a political, right. Well, look, it's been productive in as much as it.
Michael Knowles, he's got a show. He's doing his podcast. He has a voice that a lot of people out there, and this is being, it's almost the idealism versus realism. Clavicular is saying that it's just, let's be realistic about this. Let's be realistic. The average guy out there shouldn't be concerning himself with things that are not going to really benefit him in the long run. If he's going to allow his cortisol to get spiked up over things that don't matter, and he's going to just put his neck out on the line where it can cost him money, cost him to grow, to ascend as the man that he should be, what's the point of it? Michael Knowles is going to fight back because he has a podcast. He's saying things. He wants to affect the culture that we have based on ideas, based on societal norms, conserving societal norms that matter and that are good, fighting for the good. And I think we've made it so guys, men, young men want to check out because there's no point. It's just pushing a rock up a hill to nothing change. That over and over, and you at the end of the day, you're worse off. If you try to fight for the good, you almost become worse off.
At least the trans thing, there's so many other problems.
Well,
at least the trans things, though, we've kind of won on that.
Well, the way that I see trannies is that's one more person to mug once they brutally butcher themselves transitioning,
But is it, I see that.
Natural selection at its finest. He says if a trans person wants to do that, they want to just ruin themselves, destroy themselves, go for it, Maybe not allow a younger person and influence a younger person to do the same thing until they have a fully formed mind. But if somebody wants to destroy themselves, he's saying, yeah, go for it. And he brings up the term mogging. And I had to really genuinely look this up. What is this mogging? And it comes from AMOG, which means alpha male of the group. That's where it kind of started. Internet slang for one person significantly outclassing or outperforming another, usually in terms of physical attractiveness, but also in style, status, or skill, making the other person seem inferior. It comes from the looks maxing trend on TikTok and originated from gym culture as a way to describe someone overshadowing others, sometimes playfully, other times more pointedly. I get what he's doing, and I think I'm probably about 50-50. I think maybe about 60-40. I like 60%, I like what he's doing, but the 40% I think he's missing out on things, and I think that's going to come with age, maturity. He's beyond his years in some things, but I think he's missing a lot of things that I think it's just going to come with growing and becoming more of a mature male that he's going to maybe pick up on it. But Clavicular is I still want to learn more about this guy. I think overall he could be a force for good, but I think he needs to really expand his mindset in certain things and not just, you got to bring in the spiritual component. Everybody is made in the image of God. You got to bring in that in, because if you're just ignoring that, you're not going to go as far as this ultimate man that you are saying you want to be and you want to influence others to become if you're disregarding that. So that's the only thing I would say really about it. I hope he does bring that more as a component into his overall message, but certainly an interesting person. So we'll leave it at that. I hope you all have a great new year. I hope this year 2026 is amazing and major blessings and good things happen for you in your life. So follow me on X and Instagram at Brandon Fogel. Have a great day.